too hard when I was walking around. I just looked for completion. But I have a little more time to look at the VIP submissions, and I was seeing things about midpoint and things about congruence. It doesn't say use any of that. It says to use this segment addition postulate. And there's actually four different things that you could have written instead of just three. But what they wrote was, what I have up here is, if the distance from P to Q plus the distance from Q to R will equal the distance from P to R. And the distance from Q to R plus the distance from R to S will equal the distance from Q to S. And that the distance from R to S plus the distance from S to T will equal the distance from R to T. I would have also accepted the distance from P to R plus the distance from R to T is equal to the distance from P to T. That also would have been the segment addition postulate. Yes, the segment addition postulate somewhat indicates that midpoint, so point Q, but that's not what the segment addition postulate is. So don't start mixing up your definitions of midpoints and your segment addition postulate. Those are two different things. Number 4 says complete the proofs below by filling in the missing statements and reasons. You are not given a property bank for this. You will, however, be given a property bank for your assessment on Thursday. Remember, you have a unit test on Thursday. Now, let me explain one thing to you. Your unit test on Thursday will basically have a property bank. So this will be already on there, and then you will have blanks in all of these. And you will drag and drop whichever definition or property or postulate goes in these. Sometimes things are used twice, like in number 4. So if that is the case, just to keep the computer from counting things wrong that you really got right, if you have two givens, the first given will have a 1 next to it. The second given that you use will be the 2 next to it. Is that kind of logical there?
Yes.
If you have to use definition of congruence twice, the first time you use definition of congruence, use the one with the 1 next to it. The second time you have to use definition of congruence, you use the one with 2 next to it. Does anybody have any questions about number 4? The diagram is just a little extra help for you, okay? If you need to work something out with the diagram, that's a little bit extra help. Obviously, when you are going from segments being congruent to measures being equal, that's the definition of congruence. And we use that twice in this one, so that would be the first one, that would be the last one would be the second one. Segment addition postulate is used twice. Are there any questions on number 5? You will have the exact number of reasons, and you won't use any of them more than once. That's the reason I put the 1s and the 2s there. Okay? Right, I thought about just not putting the 1s and the 2s there and then letting you use whatever you needed to use. But I thought that it would make it a little bit easier for you. And I'm trying to help you out here. Okay? Do what? It's Thursday. The reason I'm doing the test on Thursdays is because we have a longer class period. And the test, the unit test, is a long test. The quizzes are short enough to take on a Friday, but not the test.
So what we're going to do on Friday?
Probably start Unit 3. So we'll just do a little introduction to Unit 3. Okay? Number 6. Make sure you check your answers. You will not have any on the test like number 6, where you have to write something on this side. I give you everything on the statement side, and the only thing you fill in are the reasons on the test.
How many questions are there that are like this, like in that format?
There's a lot. A lot of this chapter was proofs, and a lot of the test is proofs. Proofs are pretty important. We will have, after this unit, we will have some amount of proofs in every unit that we do. Okay? So like if we're studying the next unit is perpendicular and parallel lines. So we will study some things about perpendicular and parallel lines, and then we will do proofs to prove that things are perpendicular, lines are perpendicular or parallel. Okay? So then we might work on a unit that's nothing but triangles. And then we might then we'll have some proofs in there about the triangles. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So every time it throws in a little bit of proofs. Today you had the angle proofs reference page. The segment proofs reference page we wrote in like notes. This curriculum already had this typed out for you. I did not do that. I was looking for what notes I had to give you, okay? But you have read through this, or you should have read through this, and if you are at home VIP students, you should read through this and pause and try to work the practice before you continue the video, okay? This is what my students have already done before I started the video. They have read through this page and had this page side by side with the practice page, and now we're about to go over the practice. So if you are at home, I want to reiterate for VIP, pause the video and try to work the practice page, and then go back and look at us going over the practice page. Okay? On the test, remember, you will have all of this in front of you. One of the other teachers asked me this morning, "You're not making them memorize all this?" I said, "No, because I can't ensure that the students at home are memorizing it." Okay? So we're all just going to be looking at this information while we test on Thursday. But do not substitute that for knowledge. If you do not know where to look, you will have trouble finding the information. Number 1 on the practice. If angle A is a right triangle, then the measure of angle A equals 90 degrees. What tells us this?
The definition of a right angle.
The definition of a right angle. If angle X is supplementary to angle Y, and angle X is supplementary to angle Z, then angle Y is congruent to angle Z. What tells us this? The congruent supplements theorem. And I suggest that on this page, that you write this out so that when you're referring back, it can help you as one of your reference pages and you don't get something mixed up. If we look at this diagram on number 3, then we can see that angle 1 is congruent to angle 2. How do we know that? The vertical angles theorem. On number 4, it says if the measure of angle P plus the measure of angle Q is equal to 90 degrees, then angle P and angle Q are complementary. This is the Definition of complementary angles. Number 5, if angle M and angle N form a right angle, then we can know that angle M and angle N are complementary. This is the complement theorem. Given this diagram, if line L is perpendicular to line M, then angle 1 is a right angle. This is the definition of perpendicular. Number 7 says if angle W and angle X are supplementary, then the measure of angle W plus the measure of angle X will equal 180 degrees. This is the definition of supplementary angles. Number 8 says if angle L is complementary to angle M and angle N is complementary to angle M, then angle L is congruent to angle N. This is the congruent complements. Aren't y'all glad you're not having to memorize this? You don't have a state test for geometry, but you do have an ACT, and you may see this pop up again on the ACT. Number 9 says if angle A and angle B form a linear pair, then angle A and angle B are supplementary. This is the
Supplement theorem.
And if angle N and angle P are complementary, then the measure of angle N plus the measure of angle P equals 90 degrees. How y'all doing?
Pretty good.
All y'all are doing pretty good? Number 11 says that if the measure of angle JKM plus the measure of angle MKL equals the measure of angle JKL, this is what?
Angle addition postulate.
Angle addition postulate. And if the measure of angle R is equal to the measure of angle S, then angle R is congruent to angle S. Definition of congruence. Always if you're going from a measures being equal to the angles or the segments being congruent, it is the definition of congruence. Now let's put this knowledge to the test with our angle proofs. Now, remember I told you with segment proofs, you had this guide, as Alex puts it, it's your cheat sheet. Okay? So, when we're working on number 1, these are the reasons on number 1. You'll use each one of them once and only once, unless you see them twice. Right? This is what it will be like on the test. You will see all of your choices once and only once, unless you see like 2 of it. Like number 2, we have 2 givens. One will have a 1 and one will have a 2. So make sure you put them in that order. Ain't no answer's going to be left at the bottom.
That's
I'm trying to help you out, honest.
I hate the one where it will leave.
You need to do the balance.
I know, and sometimes I do that. Okay? But I'm trying to help you out on the unit test. I know this is hard, and as we go along and the more you get used to proofs, I might start leaving some of them there.
Look, all we gotta do is just stay bad at this, and then she won't do it.
Okay, everybody feel.
We just average like that. We just average out the grades to like that.
Number one, we are given that the angle PQR is a right angle. This should be one that you get every single time, right? That's actually a choice.
Just Branson, I noticed anything what year ago we get
Oh yeah.
Is that today?
Wait, don't give it in homework. The first book.
If angle PQR is a right angle, what tells us that the measure of angle PQR equals 90 degrees? The definition of a right angle.
But that's not in the.
The measure of angle PQS, that's this angle, plus the measure of angle SQR, that's this angle, equals the measure of angle PQR. What tells us that? The angle addition postulate. So if the measure of angle PQR is 90 degrees, and the measure of angle PQS plus the measure of angle SQR is equal to the measure of angle PQR, what tells us that we can say that the measure of angle PQS plus the measure of angle SQR equals 90 degrees? No. It's the transitive property.
You gotta explain that. I keep getting on this. I keep getting on these couple of substances.
If it shows you
Right.
something-
The transitive property is kind of like the law of syllogism. It's going to say that this is equal to this, and this is equal to one of these, so we can say that these two are equal together. Does that make sense? You can go back and look at your law of syllogism, and the transitive property are very similar to each other. And then it says that angle PQS and angle SQR are complementary. So what tells us that if this one plus this one equals 90, that they are complementary? The definition of complementary angles. Number 2. We are given two statements, aren't we? We are given that angle 2 is congruent to angle 3, so that's our given 1. And we are given that angle 1 and angle 2 form a linear pair, so that's our given 2. That's right in front of you. That's already 2 answered correctly. Now, if we're going from angles being congruent to the measures being equal, that's the what? The definition of congruence. If we know that angle 1 and angle 2 form a linear pair, so therefore angle 1 and angle 2 are supplementary, that's going to be what?
Definition of something.
No, it's not. It's what? Supplement theorem.
That's what I said.
Is that what you said, Gabe? Now, if we know that angle 1 and angle 2 are supplementary because the measure of angle 1 plus the measure of angle 2 equals 180 degrees, that is the definition of supplementary angles. Now, if the measure of angle 2 equals the measure of angle 3, and we know that the measure of angle 1 plus the measure of angle 2 equals 180, can we say that the measure of angle 1 plus the measure of angle 3 also equals 180? Yes. So what tells us we can do this? Substitution. Okay, Juanis, you said that you were getting confused by the substitution property
I keep switching it up
with the transitive. Those two are so similar that it can be very easy to switch that up. You are going to have a statement up here that 2 and 3 are, that two things are equal, and then you're going to have another statement that does not include both of them. You see what I'm saying? And then you're going to have a third statement where it's substituted. Number 7 says that angle 1 and angle 3 are supplementary if we know that measure of angle 1 plus the measure of angle 3 equals 180 degrees. So that is, again, the definition of supplementary angles. Now remember, if you're using this twice, and you're going to see it twice in your bank, if you are, you're going to see one of the choices with a 1 and one of them with a 2. Make sure you use them in order, the 1 first and the 2 second. Otherwise, it will count it wrong on the unit test. Your unit test on Thursday will be in Schoology. I did not put it in case. Okay? You will take it in Schoology. In addition to that, I need the VIP students to know that your test will not open for you until it is your class period. So if you are scheduled VIP students in my second block, then your test will not be available for you to work until second block. You can work it anytime after that, you just cannot work it before that. You guys don't have to worry because you won't be working on it until you come in here anyway. Number 3, we are given 2 things, right? The angle 1 and angle 2 form a right angle. And we are given that the measure of angle 1 plus the measure of angle 3 equals 90 degrees. What tells us that angle 1 and angle 2 are complementary? No.
Complement theorem.
The complements theorem. And if the measure of angle 1 plus the measure of angle 3 equals 90 degrees, what tells me that angle 1 and angle 3 are complementary? That's the definition of complementary angles. See, it states that they equal 90 degrees, right? So if the measure of angle 1 and the measure of angle 3 equals 90 degrees, and angle 1 and angle 3 are complementary, then we know that, I'm sorry, let me go back down here. If angle 1 and angle 2 are complementary, and angle 2 and angle 3 are complementary, then we know that angle 2 is congruent to angle 3, and that is the congruent complements theorem. What I'm going to allow you to do now is I'm going to allow you to work on numbers 4, 5, and 6. So if you are at home, pause your video and work on numbers 4, 5, and 6. This is what you should have for number 4. If you have you go back to the references page, the definition of angle bisector says an angle bisector divides an angle into two equal parts. Okay? Equal being the key word there. We actually even talked about that in Unit 1 as well. So in our proof, it says that ray BE, that's this ray right here, bisects angle ABD. So that's this angle right here. So that's going to mean that angle ABE is congruent to angle EBD. Okay, number 5, you should have gotten these reasons. Are there any questions on number 5? Okay.
What are you substituting?
Okay, so it says the measure of angle RSU equals the measure of angle VST. So on 4 and 5, you substituted RSU for VST. Okay, you want to put that out here that the measure of angle RSU equals the measure of angle VST. So you can see what you have substituted. You can look at 4 and 5 and see what's different. To me, that's the easiest way to see what has changed. And then I go back up here and I verify that this does equal this, so it can be substituted. And that's when I know that it was substitution. Now, on between 4 and 5, let's look at that transitive property. That way we're looking at both of those, substitution and transitive together. If it says that the measure of angle VST plus the measure of angle USB equals this, and the measure of angle RSU plus the measure of angle USB equals the same thing, then I can say that the measure of angle hang on, I'm trying to find that. Oh, I'm on the wrong one. Hang on. Go back again. I'm gonna look at 3 and 5. So RSU plus USB equals RSV, the measure of angle RSV, and the measure of angle RSU plus the measure of angle USB equals the measure of angle UST. Therefore, these are equal together, so that's transitive. And then when you go from the measures being equal to the angles being congruent, that is obviously the definition of congruence. Okay, and then number 6. You have, I'm wanting to think 2, but maybe 1, where it's 9 steps long on your unit test. You have some short ones, but you also have some long ones. Are there any questions on number 6? Okay, let's look at number 7, 8, and 9. you will not have any proofs like 7, 8, and 9 where you have to do both sides. Okay? All of them will be like we done with numbers 1 through 6 with your bank. Okay? But let's look at numbers 7, 8, and 9. Obviously, we are given the first statement. And we are given something else. We're also given that angle 4 and angle 5 form a linear pair. Now, if angle 1 is congruent to angle 4, we can say that the measure of angle 1 is equal to the measure of angle 4. Because the definition of congruent is either going from measures being equal to angles being congruent or vice versa.
Seniors and CTC class change.
Now, what tells us that if angle 4 and 5 form a linear pair, that they are also supplementary?
Definition of supplementary.
I think it's the definition. Nope. They all right to begin with. It was the supplement theorem. The definition is going to reference 180 degrees, isn't it?
Yeah, because it'd be angle 4.
So the definition of supplementary angles is going to tell us that the measure of angle 4 plus the measure of angle 5 equals 180 degrees. Now, let's look. We have substitution. To me, this helps me understand substitution a little bit. What do I know up here that I might could substitute in here? It's going to be something about the measure of angle 4 or the measure of angle 5, right? So I know that it's equal.
You can substitute angle 4 for angle 1.
Right. So I can say that the measure of angle 1 plus the measure of angle 5 is equal to 180 degrees. Going the other direction sometimes helps you understand better what's going on. Okay? So then, if the measure of angle 1 plus the measure of angle 5 equals 180 degrees, this is going to be the definition of supplementary angles, isn't it? Because it mentions that 180 degrees and supplementary.
Okay, so in order for it to be definition of supplementary angle, there either has to be the equation like in the statement section or up at the top. Right?
Right. Number 8. They give you that angle 1 and angle 2 form a linear pair. And they also give you that the measure of angle 2 plus the measure of angle 3 equals 180 degrees. So let's go back up here. Remember when we went from step 3 to step 4 by the supplement theorem? So if we know that angle 1 and angle 2 form a linear pair, can we say that angle 1 and angle 2 are supplementary? And then if we go from the measures of angle 2 and the measures of angle 3 being 180 degrees, we can say that, by the definition of supplementary angles, that angle 2 and angle 3 are supplementary, right? So if angle 2 and angle 3, if angle 1 and angle 2 are supplementary, and angle 2 and angle 3 are supplementary, can we say that angle 1 is congruent to angle 3? Yes, by the, no, this is the congruent supplement
Juniors class change.
theorem. Okay, so to forget about any of them. I want you to always, on your unit test, look back at those reference pages and double check. Okay? Who did they release? Juniors? Okay. Let's just finish number 9 real fast. We are given that segment AB is perpendicular to segment BC. So we know by the definition of perpendicular that angle ABC is a right angle. What does the definition of a right angle tell us? If angle ABC is a right angle, then the measure of angle ABC is what? Equals 90 degrees. So the measure of angle 1, that's this one right here, plus the measure of angle 3 equals the measure of ABC, that is the angle addition postulate. And if the measure of angle 1 plus the measure of angle 3 equals 90 degrees,
Definition.
okay, let's look at this right fast. We have measure of angle ABC and the measure of angle ABC. What's left is not substitution. What's left is stated, so it is the transitive property. That's okay. We're trying really hard to get those straight.
It's the transitive put you're switching out.
Right. What's left besides the same things are stated here.
Number 7 is the second given.
Do what? Oh, the second given,
Yes, ma'am.
angle 2 and angle 3 are complementary. Okay. The definition of complementary angles here tells me that angle 1 and angle 3 are complementary. And we have 2 of them that are complementary, and we know that 1 and 2 are congruent, so that's going to be the congruent complements theorem. And that is the end of Unit 2, guys. Congratulations.